Have you ever stopped to think about why the Son of God wept? Among all the miracles recorded in the Bible, there is one that reveals one of the deepest aspects of God's heart. A moment when hope seemed to have been buried inside a dark cave. A moment when Jesus, before performing one of the greatest miracles of his ministry, shed tears. The question is intriguing. If he knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, why did he cry? What was behind those tears? And what does this story teach us about God and about those moments when everything seems lost? In the small village of Bethany lived 3 siblings who were very dear to Jesus: Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. Whenever he passed through the region, Jesus was welcomed into their home with affection and friendship. But one day, something terrible happened. Lazarus became seriously ill. Desperate, Martha and Mary sent a message to Jesus. "Lord, the one you love is sick." They were certain he would come immediately. After all, he had already healed the sick, made the paralyzed walk, and performed countless miracles. But to everyone's surprise, Jesus did not come. The days passed, and the situation grew worse. Lazarus died. Grief filled the house. Friends and relatives came to comfort the family. The body was placed in a tomb, and a stone was rolled across the entrance. Everything seemed finished. Meanwhile, something greater was taking place. God was preparing a miracle that would reveal his glory in an extraordinary way. When Jesus finally arrived in Bethany, for days had passed since Lazarus had died. There was no doubt about it, he was dead. When Martha met Jesus, she expressed her sorrow. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." How many times do we ask similar questions? How many times do we look at our struggles and wonder why God did not act sooner? Then Jesus replied, "Your brother will rise again." Martha believed in the future resurrection, but her pain was focused on that very moment. Then Jesus declared one of the greatest truths in Scripture. "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he may die, yet shall he live." Shortly afterward, Mary also came to Jesus and repeated the same words as her sister. She fell at his feet, weeping. Around them, family members and friends mourned deeply over the loss. It was at that moment that something remarkable happened. Jesus saw the tears. He heard the sobs. He witnessed the suffering of the people he loved. Then the Son of God himself wept. The shortest verse in the Bible carries one of its greatest revelations. Jesus wept. He knew the miracle was about to happen. He knew Lazarus would return to life. Yet he still cried. Those tears show that God is not indifferent to human pain. He does not observe our suffering from a distance. He cares. He knows our tears and walks with us through our most difficult moments. But Jesus' tears were not the end of the story. When he arrived at the tomb, Jesus commanded, "Take away the stone." Martha hesitated. From a human perspective, it was already too late. Her brother had been dead for 4 days. But God's greatest miracles often happen precisely when all human hope has disappeared. The stone was removed. Everyone watched in silence. Then Jesus lifted his eyes to heaven, prayed, and cried out with a powerful voice, "Lazarus, come out." For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then something began to move inside the tomb. Footsteps, movement, life. Lazarus appeared alive, still wrapped in his burial cloths. The impossible had happened. Sorrow turned into joy. Despair gave way to amazement. The man everyone believed was lost forever was now breathing again before their eyes. But this miracle pointed to something even greater. One day, Lazarus would die again. However, Jesus was revealing a power capable of conquering death forever. A short time later, Christ himself would be betrayed, crucified, and placed in a tomb. Once again, everything would seem lost. The disciples would weep. Their hopes would be shaken. Fear would fill their hearts. But just as it happened in Bethany, God was still at work even when no one could see it. On the 3rd day, the tomb would be empty. Jesus would rise in glory. The resurrection of Lazarus was only a preview of the greatest victory in history, Christ's victory over death. And that message remains alive today. Perhaps there is something in your life that seems dead. Perhaps it is an abandoned dream, a lost hope, or a prayer that has not yet been answered. Perhaps you are looking at a situation and thinking that too much time has passed, that there is no longer any solution. That is exactly what Martha thought. That is exactly what everyone thought. But God continues to work when no one else believes. He continues to turn tears into testimonies, restore lives, and make a way where there seems to be no way out. The story of Lazarus teaches us that God's silence does not mean his absence. His delay does not mean abandonment. When everything seems finished, he can still write a new chapter. Because the same Jesus who wept before the tomb was the same Jesus who called a dead man out of the grave. The same Jesus who felt human pain was the same Jesus who conquered death. If today you carry questions, fears, or wounds that no one knows about, remember this truth. Jesus understands your pain and has the power to transform any situation. Because for God, not even death is the end. And when everything seems lost, it may be exactly the moment when the miracle is closer than you can imagine.